The actor Jon Pertwee has died after suffering a heart attack. He was 76. In a career spanning 60 years, he was best known for his roles as Doctor Who.
Jon Pertwee was the astronomical aristocrat. He was the Time Lord. His unique talents made him a star long before he entered the TARDIS, but as the third Doctor Who, he became the most popular, and after 4 years of time travelling, he'd established himself as something of a cult figure.
John was much more Holmesian, wasn't he? Very grand, and he's so shockingly recognisable, isn't he? He's rather like a tall light bulb, isn't he? Glitters.
Going to conventions won't be the same without him there. They won't be the same for the Doctor Who fans who he has been, who they have been devoted to him, and he's devoted himself to them in return. He'll be very sadly missed. He was a great man. I mean, I can definitely say that I was in the company of a great man.
Hello everyone, welcome to John's Insane Asylum. Yes, hope everyone's doing well and welcome to the video. Have we got a video? Yes, we've got a video. Oh God, I'm just looking at myself. I'm not used to being clean shaven. Yes, well, I fought the razor and the razor won. Yeah, I was doing it me goatee. I don't know, I'm going all Yorkshire now. I was doing my goatee. And I really butchered it. I looked in the mirror and I said, my beard looks like the map of Italy. So I went, no. So I shaved it all off, and here we are. Yes, it's taken a while to get used to it. I won't be clean shaven for long. Yes, because I'm quite virile. Oh God, I look 20 years younger. I look like a 40-year-old who's just discovered TikTok. I mean, bloody hell. Anyway, enough about me. So yeah, as I'm recording this video on the 14th, which is by the time this goes up, it'll be on Jon Pertwee's, I can't get the bloody words out. Jon Pertwee's anniversary, 30th anniversary, 30 years since we lost the great, the man, the myth, the legend of Jon Pertwee. 30 years, I don't know where that's gone. 30 years. Oh my God, I was only 5. Oh God, and I'm nearly 36. Or as my friend Badger say, you nearly joined you're joining the 40 club soon. Oh dear. So yeah, Jon Pertwee, I mean, Jon Pertwee for me, he was, you know, with Tom Baker, I mean, I can't choose between the two because it's very difficult for me because I grew up, in the wilderness years of Doctor Who with Jon Pertwee and Tom Baker, and I can't choose between two, but because they are those two are the quintessential Doctor Who's for me. Because they're my first Doctors. They're always going to be. And it's like with my auntie, she grew up with William Hartnell, so to her, William Hartnell will always be the Doctor, the original, you might say. So yeah, so I'm gonna, share my memories of Jon Pertwee without getting too emotional. But so Jon Pertwee was my first introduction to Doctor Who. The very first story I saw was Spearhead from Space on, sorry, excuse me, on VHS back in, I'm gonna say 93 or 4. I wasn't very old. I was about 3 or 4, and it just it captivated me. It really captured my imagination. It really did. Like a time traveling alien. Going from different planets, and I was, I know, and it was my first introduction to sci-fi. Sci-fi, and obviously, I don't think modern sci-fi is, as good as the old sci-fi. But I'm going to go on a tangent about. I don't want to be going on a tangent how shit modern sci-fi is, or how PC is and woke it is. I don't want to get into that. Don't really want to get into that shit. Because I just go on a rant. I just go on a rant for the next 10 hours about it. But yeah, he was in. So Doctor Who was my introduction to sci-fi, and it did. It captured my imagination as a 3 or 4-year-old kid. It really did. And I think kids like to be scared. It's all part of growing up, isn't it? Kids love to be scared, whether it's horror or whatever it is. People like, and I was terrified of the Autons, absolutely petrified of the Autons. Oh my God! It was the way they moved, and the electronic buzzing saying meow 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 meow, and the way they dropped their hand and go meow. It was that cliffhanger at the end of episode 2 in Spirit from Space is still one of the most terrifying cliffhangers for me. Still, oh my God, the way the Auton just slowly got up, and the music and the tension and Ransom, the acting, the fear, like it was just absolutely outstanding. It was just such an amazing introduction to Doctor Who. And I've always had a soft spot for the unit era. The Barry Letts, Philip Hinchcliffe era of Doctor Who. Always loved it. There isn't many stories from that year that I go, oh, that was a terrible, that was a really bad story. I mean, there's for every Sea Devils and Curse of Peloton, there's going to be lesser ones. There's going to be a mutant or a time monster. I mean, mutant. And to be honest, the mutant story isn't that bad, really. I never really gravitated to that story much as a kid. But after a few re-watches, it's not that bad, really. It's quite a decent. There's quite a decent story underneath it. It's not as bad as some of Tom Baker's latter ones. It's not. It's not that bad. Really. I think Time Monster. I don't know the story. The story doesn't grab me, and even Roger Delgado's master is incredibly hammy in it, because normally he's pretty. For a villain, he's very. He doesn't really border between pantomime like Auntie Ailey did, but even in Time Monster, he's kind of just really really hamming it up. Hamming it more up than a gammon tin. It's like really really hamming it. Oh, please don't kill me, Almighty One! Don't kill me! No. And it seems very uncharacteristic for the master to beg, because normally he was, the suave, charming personality, very manipulative, suave, charming personality. And it's like, and he's on his knees groveling, and it's like, this is so uncharacteristic of the master, particularly his master, you know. But yeah, I mean, that Spear from Space, it is still my favourite story today, because it was my first introduction to Doctor Who. And my mum, she told me when she rewatched, when they used to repeat the Doctor Who, she said even she used to walk past dummies and think they come to life. It was such a, that scene that scene in episode 4 when they break out of the shops, all the automs come to life. It's still scary today, and just amazing, just amazing 70s Doctor Who, how they would the way they would create atmosphere and tension and strong characters. Strong characters like Miss Hawthorne from the demons, and just amazing, just amazing writing, amazing direction, amazing production, amazing performances. Just they had so much chemistry. Jon Pertwee had so much chemistry with the Brigadier when they used to bicker, and he said, "Pompous, self-opinionated idiot, I think you said, Doctor." We won't worry about that. Let us carry on. you know, we're in this together. Just amazing, just amazing. And the way, and I mean, Jon Pertwee, was known for being a very comedic, actor. Navy Yard, Navy, is it Navy Yard, Lark or Nark? Oh dear. Navy Lark. Is it Navy Lark? Sorry, I'm having a brain fart, yeah. Navy Lark, I think he was. He was in, he was a very comedic performer. So he could have easily, you know, gone down the comedic route, but he played it so. I think people were expecting him to play it very comedic. I think John Terrific, well, he's going to play it very, very silly, but he played it so straight. He's just, absolutely amazing. His performances just absolutely amazing. He was the James Bond. He was, was William Arnold said, "So you're my replacement, a dandy and a clown from Three Doctors." He was an action. He was an action dandy. It was like James Bond with his gadgets and Bessie and all the vehicles he had, and the action, just incredible action. He was the action doctor, and he was such um contrast from Patrick Tremor, who was more like a sort of like cowardly sort of cowardly hobo. He's very, basically in the scene with the invasion with the Cybermen, and he goes, "Oh," and he's like out with his feet, going, "Oh, oh, oh, Brigadier, help me! Oh, Brigadier, Brigadier!" Oh, man. But yeah, John Pertwee, amazing, amazing as a doctor, amazing, absolutely amazing. It's such great stories, and I think it was Doctor Who, Doctor Who, Barry Letts, in one of his best eras. That unit era where it worked. It really worked. That era. The Doctor confined to one time, one planet. Due to being banished by the Time Lords and forced to regenerate again. He was, and I think initially he's very upset. He's very upset that he's stuck on Earth. He has a fondness, a deep affection for humanity and its customs and its people. But for the Doctor, because the reason he left Gallifrey, because he was stuck on one planet. He was a dreamer. He was a wanderer. He wanted to discover things. He didn't like. He was a rebel. He was a rebel in his society. He didn't want to be in that hierarchy of cardinals and castellans. It's like sort of like being in the army, regimental. He didn't want that. He wanted to discover things, because he was like, there's billions of planets and galaxies to discover. Why am I confined to this very rigid regimental society? So the third Doctor, to be confined to another, to one planet at one time. I imagine in his mind drew parallels from when he was stuck on Gallifrey. You know, but then of course through the seasons, he sort of not fully accepts it, but he does. What's the word I'm looking for? I think in many ways, I think it's really, in many ways, made him a warmer character. You know, the Doctor is very, although sometimes, he says, and say, sometimes, particularly in Pyramid of Mars, I'm going on a tangent again, but particularly Pyramid of Mars, here, Jane's like, oh, sometimes you're not even human, Doctor. Well, yes, here, I'm not human. I'm a Time Lord. Oh, I know you're a Time Lord. I know you're a Time Lord. I walk in eternity. I I walk in eternity, in the darkness, in the light, in the darkness. You don't understand the complications, Sarah. I'm 700 years old. Ah, so when his companions becomes like sometimes he's not human, well, he's not. But he does, like I say, he does have empathy and a fondness for for humanity. So when there's a situation like the Autons, he's gonna help humanity, and he does. And even though he clashes with the Brigadier sometimes, he does respect the Brigadier. He really does respect the Brigadier. There's the even though he says, "Oh, but the tin soldiers with their tin pot soldiers with soldiers with their machines." Oh, Brigadier. That's your solution to everything. Just blow everything up, And so yeah, he builds on. I think the unit years build on his relationship with humanity, and he really, and I think he really warms to humans more than William Hartnell and Patrick Tateman did, in my opinion. And and it's like Terence Dicks wanted a sort of like a um I think was it Terence Dicks that come up with the unit storyline, or was it sorry, I'm forgetting my facts wrong, but I think it was Terence Dicks. They wanted a more Earth-based stories like Quantumas? Is it Quantumas? That sort of style. And it really works, because it really works. It's like there's a claustrophobia to it. There's a claustrophobia to it, and yeah, and they just really really work. It just really works. It's some great stories with Unit. Day of the Daleks. I like Day of the. Some people don't like Day of the Daleks. I like Day of the Daleks. Claws of Axos. The Demons. Oh, the Demons is just top 10 Jon Pertwee. It really is top 10. It's just top 10 for me. So it's just such a great story. Such great tension, and you got the Master at his absolute best. Mr. Magister. Where's our Mr. Magister? I'm going to get him now, alright? I'm going to get Mr. Magister now, alright, Miss Hawthorne? It's like, good evening, Miss Hawthorne. And what can I do? I'm usually referred to as the Master. Who the heck are you? I'm usually referred to as the Master. Oh, is that so? Universally. And I want you, Russell. What did you call me? You, Russell, happens to be your real name. Listen, get off my patch, mate, while you're still safe. Why, you insolent prisoner. Oh, she want the hand with you. You just, the Master. It's like as the saying goes, every protagonist needs an antagonist. There is Batman, the Joker, you've got the Doctor, and you've got the Master. Now, the Master season is just one of the best seasons you're ever going to get in Classic Who. Just, absolutely amazing. Roger Delgado, absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing. The chemistry them and Jon Pertwee have is just it's not something you can um it's not something you can buy or even replicate, really. It's just two incredibly distinguished English. I know Delgado's Spanish, but English Spanish actors, and it's just perfect casting. Absolutely perfect. I don't, for me, Roger Delgado he will always be the master to me. And Anthony Haley wasn't bad, but I think they were trying. I don't think it was his fault. I just think they wanted somebody to read to try and fit Delgado's shoes, in the shadow of his, untimely, unfortunate death. I think they wanted to have a duplicate of Roger Delgado, but Anthony Haley is, he is his own performer. He's done some great performances, Anthony Haley. He's been in a few. I've seen him in a few cult horror films. What was that film he was in? He plays a priest. Oh, what's it called? What's it called? What's it called? I think it's called Blood on the Satan's Claw, something like that. And he plays a priest, and he's pretty good in it. He's really good in it. So, so I think it was unfair, for Anthony Haley to, it was unfortunate that we lost Roger Delgado, and it was like they wanted like John Nathan Turner wanted to reintroduce the master, but the problem was Anthony had the same look of Roger Delgado, but he was a bit more pantomime, particularly in performances like Castroval, which is good. Don't get me wrong, but for me, Roger Delgado will always be the master. Yeah. Someone else, native from our planet, is on this planet. Who? The master. Well, that Jack and all he does is cause trouble, and he certainly not try to kill you. Oh, him, he's just an imaginative plodder. Would you call that surprise? Imaginative. Says his thesis, or whatever it's called, had a higher mark than yours. Yes, well, yeah, well, I was a late developer. So and it's sort of built, and then it's all around. I'm trying to get my fucking words in there because I'm fucking autistic bipolar. I shouldn't keep reminding you, but I am. So if I if my brain goes a bit uh brain fart, you'd have to bear with me just a second. But yeah, even though Roger Delgado, um, Roger Delgado, his absolute mission is to kill the Doctor and destroy humanity, a race that the Doctor beloves. There's definitely there's definitely a respect there from the time they had at the Academy on Gallifrey. There's definitely a respect there because in Seedell's, his companion, goes, "Oh, you felt sorry if you wanted to see him." Well, yes, well, Joe, we were friends at one time, close. We was at school together. They had a lot of respect. They did have a lot of respect for each other, and the chemistry they had is not something you can. It's not something. It's you do. You know, modern actors they could never duplicate the chemistry that those two had. It was just amazing. And I think the Master was one of the first villains I fell in love with as a kid. Just because even though he was so diabolically evil and corrupt, and it was just it's just this he has such a likability to him, such a charm to him. It was sometimes you really wanted him to succeed. It was like, you know what I mean. So sometimes villains, they can be so likable. Like you try and rationalize with their actions, and think, well, sometimes their actions are justified. Not always the case with villains. You know, and I think they try that too hard now with creating anti-heroes that are misunderstood. Particularly in modern Hollywood because they run out of ideas. It's like we have to have an anti-hero that's misunderstood or has mental issues or childhood issues or trauma. Whereas the Master, particularly in Clash Cool. He hasn't got any trauma. There's no, New Who with the fucking drums. None of that. None of that. Not, he's had trauma, therefore that's why he's evil. No, the Master is evil, and he loves being evil. I miss villains like that. Villains that are evil because they like to be evil because it's fun. Because it's fun for them. Instead of like we have to create a complicated backstory where they've had trauma, or so therefore we have to try and feel sorry for them, but they're so unlikable I can't feel sorry. But with Roger Delgado, he's evil because he's evil. There's no complicated backstory. The master's evil because he's evil. And that's why it works. That's why it works. So, right, what else? Uh, excuse me a sec. Bit of a brain fart. Bit of a brain fart again. Um, we mentioned the we mentioned the unit era. Mentioned the master. We mentioned his companions, didn't we? So I think Lee Shaw is incredibly. I think Lee Shaw is incredibly underrated, and she should be. And I think I didn't fully. To be honest, I didn't fully appreciate her as a kid. But as I've got older, I've grown to appreciate Liz Shaw because in many ways I would say the doc I mean, obviously she was very skeptical at first about aliens. She's like, aliens, little blue men with 3 heads. And Bridges like 10 tons of alien material land on this planet every day and do no harm to anyone. Early this morning, we had a shouted meteorites landed in Essex. That's impossible. They usually burn up in the atmosphere. These meteorites didn't. This particular shower of meteorites came from a funnel and landed in the same area. Oh, that's impossible. Must be incredible. They are, Michelle. They are. And she was a very feisty woman. Oh, I didn't ask to be here, Brigadier. I didn't ask to be. Oh, hello. I'm General Scobie. Oh, so you're not just a pretty face then. Right. She was incredibly feisty and resourceful, and in many ways she was equal to the Doctor. She wasn't a silly woman with a high pitched voice running from everything. Oh, Cybermen! Ice warriors! Daleks! I mean, I think the thing if Liz Shaw encountered the Daleks, she'd give him a run for her money. Let me tell you, I think she would. And the relationship between Liz and the Doctor is established quite quickly in Spearhead from Space because the first two parts, the Doctor recovering from his post regeneration trauma, they call it. So he's very, but yeah, but once he gets out the hospital, their relationship, there's a respect there straight away. Right, I'm just going to pause. Because I need to go to the toilet, all right? Oh, sorry about that. I had a date with a toilet seat. So, right, where was I? Very flexible, Could be used on the planet Delphon when they communicate with their eyebrows. That's strange. Do I remember that? That's Delphon for how do you do? Delighted, Miss Shaw, delighted. That's Delphon for, oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't think you would smell. So yeah, so I was talking about the relationship between Liz Shaw and the Doctor. So the relationship with the Doctor gets established quite quickly as a trust. There's an absolute trust there. She's a scientist, and the Doctor respects that. Like the Doctor does struggle the Doctor struggles with authority figures like the Brigadier and government officials and all that. But Ridley Shaw, because he knows she's a scientist, an Earth scientist. There's a respect there straight away, and you can see it in their performances. There's a respect there. So even though Liz initially was skeptical of alien life, she's seen the Doctor. He can change his appearance. This was before it was called regeneration. I mean, it gets called regeneration in Planet of the Spiders with Jon Pertwee's regeneration to Tom Baker. So an alien that can change his experience. What about you? You believe in a man comes from time and space, traveling with the power to change his experience, traveling in a police box. She's very skeptical at first, but and then she grows to respect the Doctor and then trust the Doctor. Because there's the particularly the end of Spearhead from Space, where the Doctor sort of creates an ECT machine. Oh, and if you spend a lifetime in mental hospitals, you know what an ECT machine does to you, don't you, loves? I'm cured. So when the Doctor creates like an ECT machine for the Autons, he trusts Liz. And she saves him at the end with the next team. So there's definitely definitely a respect and an affection there. And she's such an underrated companion. She's very underrated. Just she should have been in. I always say if she should have been in at least another season. As much as I love Katie Manning as Joe Grant, it would have been. Imagine Liz, meeting the Master. Imagine the bloody, one-liners. Oh, it would have been amazing. Would have been amazing. And I think Caroline John gives. I think for me as well, as good as she is as Liz Shaw, but the best performance I think she does. This is just my opinion. The best performance she did was in Inferno, where the Doctor. So the doctor's tinkering around with his TARDIS console, trying to get it to work, and he's using the power supply off the people of the reactor because they want to penetrate the Earth's crust. So he's using their power. So there's an incident where the power gets increased too much, and he ends up in an alternative Earth. And I think this is, I'm not sure if this is the first alternative Earth storyline. I'm trying to think. There might be one. I gotta think now. Isn't there an alternative Earth storyline in Patrick Troughton's tent time as the Doctor? Or am I going doolally? But anyway, it's one of the first. It's one of the very first alternative Earth storylines where this Earth is under a fascist regime. There's no royal family. It's just shoot and ask questions later. And Liz plays an alternative version of herself. Is it platoon leader or under leader? I can't remember now. But the contrast between the alternative Liz and the normal Earth Liz is just incredible. It's like a different actor. Because even though Liz is a very feisty, opinionated, stubborn, but at the same time a very warm human being, the the coldness, the performance, the coldness, the undetached, just like almost automaton sort of, it's like it's just incredible, absolutely incredible. And it's only in the last two episodes that she sort of warms to the doctor and actually believes he comes from an alternative Earth. But she's absolutely amazing performer. And she even went on to go to be in Harry Enfield, which referenced Doctor Who, so that was cool. I remember seeing she watched some Harry Enfield maybe a couple of months ago. Was it a couple of months ago? I was like, oh, I said, oh, it's Caroline John. And they go in, and these two, this Labour and Tory, going, well, I think Doctor Who was better under my bloody reign than bloody Labour. Oh, Labour, we had Philip Hinchcliffe, and we had Talons of Weng Chiang, we had Revenge of the Cybermen. But under Tory, we had the Master, Roger Delgado, we had Unit, we had the Brigadier, we had Terror of the Autons, we had the Claws of Axos. You know, they're arguing about Doctor Who. It's bloody brilliant. Bloody brilliant. So yeah, she does a great performance as the alternative Liz Shaw. Just amazing, amazing. She should have been in. She should have been in more Doctor Who's. Yeah, I've really grown to appreciate Liz Shaw, and of course you got Joe Grant. You know, and of course, Sarah Jane Smith. A lot of people would say the best companion. I mean, I don't think I could. I don't think I'd argue with that. Really, I don't think I. I mean, she was really good, outstanding. But yeah, I mean, John Pertwee's tenure as the Doctor really got me into Doctor Who, and I think in many ways, having undiagnosed autism at the time, it sort of made me. It sort of made me. I realised I was. I've always realised I was different to other kids. I've always, even at a young age. And I found Doctor Who, particularly Doctor Who, you could sort of get lost. You could sort of unattach yourself from the real world and sort of beam yourself or transform yourself into the Doctor Who world and get completely lost, and feel actually comfortable in that world, even though it's full of aliens, and space and aliens, space, generations. Oh my, full of all that. But I just got lost in it. Got lost in that world, and I was obsessed with watching Doctor Who as a kid. All the VHSs, I just was obsessed. Every weekend they just wouldn't play outside. They just watched Doctor Who. How do you tell your parents it's 5, 6? I've got anxiety. I don't want to go outside. You can't articulate that as a 5, 6-year-old. I mean, anxiety back in the 90s, that was like it was like the word didn't even exist. It was like, oh, anxiety. What's that? Sounds like some sort of painful enema. What's anxiety? It wasn't. Even. I mean, of course, mental illness and mental health issues always. It's always been around. But back in the 90s, you didn't discuss. It wasn't discussed. So me to articulate a 5-year-old or 6-year-old, oh, I've got anxiety. It wouldn't have happened. So with my anxiety, I would watch Doctor Who, get completely lost in that world, just daydream, just absolutely daydream. I was a good hell of a daydreamer in school, just daydreaming about Doctor Who, going, oh man, I love to go in Jon Pertwee's TARDIS, and I've got the Scarrow and fight the Daleks, or go to the Cursed Peloton and meet Alpha Centauri. Oh yes, that would have been amazing. Would have been absolutely amazing. So I just get absolutely lost in that world and feel absolutely comfortable in it. And in many ways, Doctor did. It was one of the main things that did make my childhood so special. It really did. It's just amazing. And then to hear when John Pertwee passed back about 30 years ago. Well, I still remember it. I still remember the announcement, Jon Pertwee, passing away. I was like, as a 5-year-old, death is like, it's a concept you don't really understand. It's not a thing you constantly think about as a 5-year-old. As me as a 5-year-old, playing with toys or watching Doctor Who or that's that sort of things. It's only when a family member dies, then you start to well, not understand what death is. You experience what death is. It becomes it's a personal experience of death, and and then it changes everything. But yeah, I remember it. I remember it. Hearing about that, I think it was BBC News. Yeah, BBC News. I think it was, and I was like, oh, definitely. I think I probably definitely feel sad, but not the type of sadness an adult would have. It's just like death is a very, even in adulthood, death is hard. Death is a very unless you actually go through death yourself, it's an experience you're not gonna fully comprehend or understand. I still mourn. You know, I still mourn people on their anniversaries to this day. And lost ones to this day. So it's like, it's hard to explain. It's hard to explain. But yeah, and of course they showed the Doctor Who movie a week later, and I remember the Jon Pertwee. I don't know if there was a clip package of him or just a picture with rest in peace Jon Pertwee. But I remember they showed something before the actual Paul McGann film. I remember that, and yeah, as I got into my VHS, it's just I just every weekend was live and kicking. Watched the Spider-Man animation cartoon, the Batman animated series with Mark Hamill, uh, and then I watched a load of Doctor Who on UK Gold or on VHS. I mean, and I think this is the only time. This is the only time I ever really liked. This is the only time I ever really liked Easter. Was when they used to show the Doctor Who's on UK Gold. They never really showed much of the Patrick Troughton and William Hartnell stories due to a lot of them. BBC in their wisdom decided to, erase some of them. And we still got lost episodes to this day, but we seem to be finding a lot now, which is absolutely excellent because Patrick Troughton and William Hartnell, those stories deserve to be seen. So they didn't show a lot of that on UK Gold. They showed Speared from Space till Survival with Sylvester McCoy. And Easter eggs would be like that. They'd be as big as bricks. Now I can get through Easter eggs, about 6 of them in about 10 seconds. Like that. I need a microscope to see them and I go, one mouthful, nope, gone. Gone. But the Easter eggs back then, they were like bricks. Big as a dwarf domain. It's like that. And it'd take me weeks to get through them. So I always remember Easter they'd show Doctor Who's. And I think that's the only reason I liked Easter in a funny sort of way. It was not just the chocolate, it was Doctor Who, It was like, such a good it was a good combination, you know. Particularly for those wilderness years. It was just the spirit of Doctor Who was always there. The spirit of Doctor Who will never die. It was always there, just the VHSs, oh man. Just amazing. Speared from Space, Curse of Peladon, Terror of the Autons, just the covers, the covers, the artwork is what I miss about VHS. The artwork, just absolutely amazing. When you look at old artwork, particularly from old video nasties and and Doctor Who's and things like just amazing artwork. The effort and the presentation of them, there was a lot of thought put into them. It's like, and then when everything went to CD, it's even vinyl, the covers, and it's like everything, and then we get the CDs and DVDs. It's like everything's condensed, and it's just not, it was just, oh my god, I miss VHS. Just miss going in Newport Market and buying all the Doctor Who VHSs and wrestling videos. Oh my god, yeah. I think that's when I start. I think that was my introduction to William Hartnell. I think it was VHS. I think it was the Chase. Yeah, the Food Dalek story, the Chase, which is it's a silly romp. It's a very silly romp. But as a kid, I loved it. The Daleks got their own, you know, time machine. It was like I loved that, and I wish they went with the third Peter Cushing film with the Chase. It would have been amazing with the budget and the design of the Daleks. It would have been amazing. The Chases of it would be absolutely amazing. So yeah, oh, I loved my VHS Doctor. Loved it, and just got lost in that world. It was just amazing. Just an amazing performer. And then getting introduced to Jon Pertwee in the Carry On films. Then so I was like, is this the same? I was like, is this the same actor? He was the soothsayer in Carry On Cleo. He was the deaf cowboy. Is it deaf blind cowboy in a sheriff in Carry On Cowboy, and he was the doctor in Carry On Screaming. Just amazing. He was he was so funny in those roles. I'm thinking, oh, that's a side of John Pertwee I've never seen before. And of course, went on to go to be Wurzel Gunner. I'm sorry, you holy bitch. It was the way I feel. Will you stop? Will you stop? I'm sorry, what's going on? I'm sorry. All I can say is you in the window pulling your pants down and showing the funny. For fuck's sake, look at me, I'm covered in gross shit. It's Mr. Cleary and Moxley. You know. So yeah, I was like, and of course there is a few comedic moments in Doctor Who, especially in Sparing for Space, where he's he's showering, so they won't discover who he is. The two doctors. That's really good. And when he dresses in drag in Green Death, and then Captain Ace is like, "Hello, Ducky." I don't know if he says that. I can't remember speaking it up. "Hello, Ducky," and he says, "If you say this to anyone," he does a Welsh accent, you see. I'm a Welsh milkman, you see. I got to deliver this milk. Why do I sound like bloody Oliver Reed? What's going on? Oh, would I know anything, madam? Oliver, do you know who's spying? Oh, would I know anything, madam? I'm very sorry. I'm very sorry you had great nipples. I'm very sorry. Very sorry. He's like, oh, I gotta deliver this milk, see? No! You're not telling me what to do. I gotta deliver this milk. No! No! So yeah, he did do a few comedic performances in Doctor Who, but overall he played it straight. And oh my god, the bickering between him and it's between the third Doctor and the second Doctor is absolutely brilliant. And they were good friends in real life as well. So the chemistry they had in the third Doctor, oh my god, it's just absolutely just magical. Is it Joe? What's this? Is this yours? Looks like probably it's a recorder. I was wondering where I got to. You've been trying to play this, have you? Oh, I see you redecorated. I don't like it. Oh my word! What have we got here? Excuse me, you can't just barge in like this. Doctor, who is this? Look, Joe, his face in, but I am him, and he is me, and we're all together. Cuckoo, cuckoo. What? It's a song by the Beatles. Well, how does it go? Oh, please be quiet. Please be quiet. Well, the thing is, Miss Grant, when I knew the Doctor, he looked like him. Brilliant. And then William Hartnell was like, "Oh, so you're my replacement, a Dandy and a Clown. Have you thought out? Well, we assessed the situation. We assessed the situation. Just I thought, nothing. Well, so easy you go. I'll tell you what it is. It's a bridge. And what are bridges for? Crossing. Yes. So cross it. Yeah, unfortunately, he was ill at the time, William Hartnell. So it would have been great to have it. It would have been great to have had more scenes of it. I was thinking, what am I on about? The chase being the first one. No, the first introduction to William Hartnell was the Three Doctors. What am I on about? I just remembered now. But obviously, the first William Hartnell, on his own story was the chase. But I was like, I didn't really warm to William Hartnell straight away because it was such a incredible. I mean, it shows, the talent of the actors, even though it's the same Time Lord, the same person. The way they put their different characteristics into it, it's just there's nothing short of outstanding. So it was such a contrast to see William, the first Doctor's a crotchety, very crotchety, old man. It was very. Even though in the later series he began, to warm to humanity, he was still very cold. He'd just been exiled from his planet, so he was very cold. Very cold. Like an outlaw. He was an outlaw. You know, and very very alien. So and the contrast between the William Hartnell to Patrick Troughton and Jon Pertwee is just it just shows the talent of the performers that they put their little nuances in their characters to make it even to make him similar, but at the same time, throw their ideas and character attributes into it. Like with Jon Pertwee, he wanted to play it straight. I guarantee he wanted to play it straight, or Terrence Dicks. I'm not quite sure on the story, but he played it relatively straight, and it absolutely works because everyone expected him to play it very comedic, and he didn't. He was incredible. Doctor, what are you doing? Venus in karate, very effective. Doctor, let him go. He's just such a great. Uh, and Terry Walsh did, and Terry Walsh, we gotta give credit to Terry Walsh and Havoc, the action team, the choreograph, the action scenes, because there's some great action scenes in a lot of the Third Doctor's stories. There's a couple I can think of. The Curse of Peladon one with Gran, King Peladon's champion. That's fantastic, fantastic. And the Sea Devils with the Master, with which became an infamous meme on Twitter. Not was it Twitter? Yeah, Twitter. He's like got his knife. Doc Master's got his knife, and John Plumley goes Akia, Akia. So it's like Ikea, Akia, 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 and that became an instant meme on Twitter. I remember I was fucking crying. Akia, brilliant. Like that with the swords, and it's like exactly it's like this, is it? How have I told you so many times? Violence will get you anywhere. Brilliant, brilliant. What else? I'm trying to think some other fight scenes. But they're the two that stick out to me: Curse of Peladon and the Sea Devils in the same season. They're the ones. And Terry Walsh, he did some great hell of a stuntman. Some of the work he did choreographing the fight scenes with the Doctor and other people, just amazing. Like he doesn't get enough credit. I mean, he probably does get credit from he probably does get a lot of credit with hardcore Doctor Who fan Terry Walsh, you know. And he started. I remember. I think his first appearance is in Web of Fear. I think he plays a soldier in that. And from about 66 to about 74-ish, or maybe 75-ish. I think he choreographed the Sultaran fight in Sultaran Experiment because I think Tom Baker. I think Tom Baker broke something, or in one particular scene he broke something, and Terry Walsh had to stand in for Tom Baker and do the fight. And you can sort of tell it's not Tom Baker, but it's still good though. It's still a good fight. And I think Terry Walsh, he deserves a lot of credit for a lot of the fight scenes in Jon Pertwee's era. Some great stuff in there. And I think he appears in Sea Devils. He's one of the guards. I think he has a couple of lines of dialogue with Joe Grant. He goes, "I gotta get back to the mainland." Sorry, miss. Orders. And I think he's in Green Death. He's in a couple of them as an actor. I know he's in Death of the Daleks. He's in the beginning where he gets hit with the Exelon arrow. But overall, he did a lot of the stunt work and the fight choreographing, and it's brilliant. It's brilliant. He was the action. Jon Pertwee was the action doctor, man. He was just absolutely, absolutely. Put it this way, he did things on his own terms, even though he was part of, he was Unit's scientific advisor. The third Doctor, up to that point, I think he was the most rebellious Doctor. I think he was the most rebellious Doctor, and up to that point, for me, at that point, the best Doctor at that point, you know. But I'll never choose between Jon Pertwee or Tom Baker. I'll never choose between them because it's my childhood. But because they are the quintessential Doctors, just absolutely amazing. And so yeah, I'll be so when I put this up, I'll be celebrating. I'll be watching a few of I'll be watching a few of his Doctor Who's. I've got his first season, I've got his second season, I've got his third season. I haven't got the last season hasn't been released as far as I know on Blu-ray. So I gotta think now. So I've got the first season, which is the Liz Shaw season. So that's Speared from Space, Doctor and the Silurians, Ambassadors of Death, and Inferno. Then I've got the second season, which is Terror of the Autons, Mind of Evil, Claws of Axis, Colony in Space, and Demons. Then I've got the third season, which is where the Doctor starts to. This is where the Time Lords sort of start to trust him more and use him, and so they sort of selfishly use him on missions. So Colony in Space is sort of like the first story where the Time Lords start to trust him again and use him on their missions. So, and then the third season is where they start to trust him more. So they go to the planet Peladon because Peladon want to join the Galactic Federation. It's basically a play on when on the common market when Teddy entered us into the common market, the EU. Sort of is based on that. So that's in that season. So it's Day of the Daleks, Curse of Peladon, Sea Devils, Mutants, Time Monster. So I've got those seasons. So the 3 Doctor season I haven't got. So I haven't got that. And I said the last season it hasn't been released yet. So I'm gonna watch a couple of those. I'm gonna watch a couple of them. And also, I don't know if I mentioned this yet. I probably haven't. If I have, I'm bipolar autism, So I bought Speared from Space for 50p in Roy Leamington Spa. I was like, that's one of the best 50p I've ever spent. Amazing. And it'll always be my favourite. So yeah, favourites. Oh yes, let's favourite Jon Pertwee stories. I mean, to do a top 10, oh my God, it'd be very difficult. I mean, Speared from Space would be in there. The Demons would be in there. The Sea Devils would be in there. I think Inferno would be in there. I think the 3 Doctors would be in there. Oh, it's difficult for me. It's difficult to do a top 10, but those ones would be in there. Underrated ones. I mean, I think Carnival of Monsters, I don't know, it feels underrated to me. I think that's a good little story with the mini scope and the man. It's like they're like sort of like traveling cosmic oboes, and they're like they've gathered all these creatures in this little machine, and it's the only time well, you see, people say, well, Jon Pertwee never faced the Cybermen. There's a Cyberman clip in Carnival of Monsters, but Third Doctor, like, only time he really encountered the Cybermen was the Five Doctors. So that's an underrated one when they're stuck in that machine, the mini scope, and they go and like got this passenger ship that's in a time loop, and they got a. I like it. I think it's underrated. Carnival of Monsters. I sort of think. What else? I think Death to the Daleks is to me is underrated. Some people say the soundtrack is a bit doesn't feel appropriate for the Daleks, but I think because they're in I mean, the Daleks in that are pretty much redundant. I mean, initially, because of the energy, because the Exelon is such an energy draining planet, it drains their weapons, so they can't use them. So the first two episodes, they can't use their weapons, so they have to have an easy, brief alliance with the Doctor on the planet. So that it's like they're very, it's like they almost play for laughs in a funny sort of way because but the situations they're in are sort of comedic. It's like Daleks without weapons. Oh well, Daleks without the power to kill. How does it feel? Keep away, keep away. What are you going to do? Your weapons are totally useless. Suffer for the same energy as us. And then so, well, if you decided, yes, Doctor, alliance between yours at the moment. So yeah, I think so. So I think the soundtrack is appropriate for the comedic madness. And I love the Exelon City. I love the model of it. I love all that practical model making. I love all that. I think we're too reliant on CGI. I just love it. The Exelon City, and then the end of the city, and you got these different, you know, so like different challenges, like mind and physical and mental. I mean, the third episode cliffhanger is a bit naff. So don't move. It's a red. It's a red. It's a red. It's a red cross floor. Don't move. I'm called Belial. I will help you if I can. Which path did he take? What is it? That way leads to death. Yeah, he passed away I think he passed away last year. He was a good age. I was rest in peace to him. I think he was 101. Bloody good age. Bloody good age. So yeah, I think Death to the Daleks is underrated. Monster of Peladon. Even Monster of Peladon is like probably one of my least favourite ones, and I still enjoy it. There isn't many John Pertwee ones that go, that's bloody awful. There are lesser ones. I mean, Time Monster, like I said, Time Monster I don't know. It doesn't gel with me. The story doesn't gel with me. It's just Atlantis. I mean, it's sort of like a neat concept for the Doctor to go to Atlantis, but I just don't know. It just doesn't gel as a story. It's just don't know. It just doesn't gel for me. But yeah, but Death to the Daleks is underrated. Really underrated, I think, in my opinion. So yeah, I think I've waffled on enough. So yeah, Jon Pertwee. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Ta-ta for now.